Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to About 116 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your happy host, Tom Haggis. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First is writer, actor, director, Kyle. See those red spots? Fine.
Citizen Tom Haggis, you are found guilty of Municipal Code 69-420, being too sexy to guest host this podcast. How do you plead?
I plead guilty. I'm a repeat offender.
I knew you'd say that.
Second, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel. We've set him to one. Don't make him angry. Roll.
Double whammy.
All right, somebody bump him to a 4. Third, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Lord Andrew. Never interrupt me when I'm talking to myself. Zumwalt.
Wow, that's really amazing that you picked that quote, because that was the quote I was going to say.
I got to say it first. There'll be plenty of that the rest of the night.
You'll never interrupt me when I'm talking to myself, when I'm talking to you through myself.
And fourth, our normal host, but he's a panelist this week because he loves these movies so much. Director, producer, gaffer, and owner of Southsider Studios, Mike. I am the last.
I went 10 rounds with John L. Sullivan himself. Sorry, I love that line.
I would say I saw Mike Tyson on TV, but I don't think people know who that is at this point. So, all right. So I imagine these are two films from our childhood that everybody kind of remembers. I mean, this is so these came out when I was in my late teens. So they weren't really on my radar. I wasn't a huge, Van Damme, and I've never really liked Stallone. But I don't know. Do these movies have like a special place for you guys?
I've never seen Timecop before. This is a first viewing for me. But Judge Dredd is a movie from my teenage years that I remember enjoying in a very stupid, silly way.
This was the first time I'd ever seen Judge Dredd.
Oh, lucky you.
I remember walking out of the theater of Judge Dredd saying, what the hell was that? And I think I owned Timecop. Oh, I'm pretty sure I owned Timecop on VHS. I had it on DVD. I also have it on Blu-ray.
Wow.
I really like Timecop. Like,
do those
we
extra
know where
pixels?
else going.
Do those extra pixels really help you with the Timecop there?
They do. They do.
There might be one scene where they're interesting.
Very much so. Jean-Claude Van Damme's butt.
Shows his ass in every movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's in his contract. Butt and splits.
I feel like both the movies would benefit from those rolling tracking bars that you got on VHS. It makes it feel more authentic. So.
The less you see, the better.
I want a TV that can produce those for all of these movies. They're so high def, it doesn't feel like I'm watching them. All right, so you guys were kind of teased on it, but let's find out what two movies we're talking about, and we're gonna poke the monkey, pokey.
Ladies and gentlemen, past, present, and future, welcome to the main event. Tonight, it's a mid-90s sci-fi bout of law versus order. A melee of malfeasance as we determine which film is guilty of assault on our eyes, ears, and other body parts. In the first corner, from 1994, written by Mark Verheiden and Directed by Peter Hyams. Starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mia Sara, and Ron Silver. Timecop! In the second quarter, from 1995, written by William Wisher and Stephen E. D'Souza. Directed by Danny Cannon. Starring Sylvester Stallone, Diane Lane, and Armand Assante. Judge Dredd.
I know, let's get to it. Our first category, our first round is going to be writing.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to start with the one that I have seen the least, and as I just said, this was the first time I'd ever seen Judge Dredd. I know of the comics. I've never read any of Judge Dredd's comics. I know of the story very shortly or very smallly, so this was definitely an experience. The story is just very bizarre. It's more focused, I would say, on action than it actually is on character development, and it was more showing off Stallone and how badass he could be. It has a very similar feel to it of Demolition Man. When I watched it, I was like,
"Oh my god, thank you!"
That was the first thing I thought of. I was like, it seems like this is Demolition Man, except he didn't go to sleep for 1,000 years or whatever. Otherwise, it's like the same movie.
I wrote that in my notes. I'm looking right at my notes.
So, and I'm sure that it wasn't, I don't know. The story is very much an action movie. It is definitely not let's have some great dialogue, because all of the dialogue is cheesy. Stallone is stiffer and shit. It's, a weird futuristic, and I say that loosely because they tried to put in every single possible futuristic cliche you could possibly think of to show that it's the future. It was just a really bizarre movie. It was just, if you cut the movie and just show all of the fight scenes, it would maybe be a little bit better of a movie, because it would just be him fighting for 20 minutes. And that's it. The one surprising thing, which we'll get into later, was the fact that Rob Schneider is in it. And I was like, what the hell? So that was a little surprise for me. So happy, I guess. I don't know. It was really weird. No. So the other thing was Timecop. So writing on Timecop, boy, writing a time travel movie always gets you into holes, because it's very difficult a lot of times to keep track of stuff, and it always leads to huge gaps and like, wait a minute, if that happened, then how did that? So I thought they did an okay job with trying to play up with, at the very beginning, how the same thing happened, and that actually happened in the past, which means that she would have known about it. So I'm not entirely sure that whole situation at the house would have happened, or maybe they're trying to imply that it didn't happen and that it happened the second time, but then that brings a paradox because it had to have happened in the first place. And so that whole situation is that's where you get into a big problem. The other one real big issue I had was, I need someone to explain the time travel rules, because these guys get into this fast moving jet car, get thrown at a wall, and then they're magically outside of said car. And then to get back, they press a button, they walk through the ripple again, and then they're back in the car again. I was really confused, and I've always thought this. So I just don't understand the rules of how the writer decided this is how the time travel is going to work. Um,
Well, I don't think they did. I mean, to be honest,
no,
they
don't
really,
think they
really
spent much
hand
time on
wave
it.
it. The whole introduction to time travel is done through a Senate meeting.
Right.
I thought
Where
that
it's
was a
just
great.
basically a monologue. I
Right.
mean, there's very little back and forth. Basically, a monologue where you tell them that some guy invented time travel, which is accepted incredibly quickly by
in
a group of
1994.
by a group of people. Yeah. So I think the best way Time Cop decided to handle all these things was not to mention them at all and just basically tell the audience what was going on.
And
But
and
then
it-
they stopped.
But it was in 2004. That's another thing I thought was interesting too. They had
Yeah.
a lot of envision for 10 years in the future.
I think the cars were the worst thing they envisioned. That cars would get clunkier, uglier, less aerodynamic. Those looked
But
they were
they did
comical.
drive themselves. So
I know, but they were comical.
And
looking.
one had a spoiler. Don't forget, one had a spoiler.
The spoiler.
Dude, it looked like shit you would build if it was 1970 and
was
you had
the
to build what you thought the car of the future was going to look like and you had no budget. That's what they did.
The Homer Simpson car.
It is
They
the Homer
just slapped
Simpson car.
pipes and shit
Yeah.
to it. It was ridiculous.
It was really just kind of bizarre of that part of it. Like I said, they kept up pretty good. The whole two things can't occupy the same space paradox. I don't know if everyone used that as a kind of safety catch for all of their time travel movies, but it's one of those things that's like, they can't run into each other. So one of the comments that was made by the chief of the Time Cop division was, we have to be really careful of our officers going back in time too many times. And yet they just were like, oh yeah, you have another mission, go. Oh, you got another mission, go. And I would think that they would run into each other a lot.
Yeah. The writing is
Wow.
very inconsistent. It's really full of holes in Time Cop, especially.
And that's
Yeah.
part of the problem with time movies in general. But again, there was a lot of push towards the main actor, which this isn't what Judge Dredd did. They played towards Jean-Claude Van Damme. He did his splits. He did a lot of
going
cool
towards
kung
the
fu.
acting. We got to worry about her.
I know, but they played him. They wrote a movie for that actor, and it shows a lot. And then the story was kind of put on the side of, okay, we're going to add all this stuff in. But whatever the writer did, they got Mia to show her boobs, and I'm okay with that.
I think these movies are a great example of taking a really cool concept and failing to execute it. I think both movies have great concepts. The concept of Judge Dredd and a lawless future and these crazy mega cities. There's only one force of good and law, and it's, Judge Dredd is a by the book, kind of supposed to be like an anti-hero almost, but they fuck it up. It goes off the rails. I actually think the first third of Judge Dredd is not too bad. And then I think the movie gets progressively worse as it goes on. But the writing for Time Cop is so hand-wavy, and we didn't think this out, that it's almost laughable at some points that you realize, they didn't want us to pay attention to any of this shit. Because as soon as you do, it all starts to fall apart in your hands.
We
The writing on
carbonated
both
gold.
of you. Okay. Yeah, that guy never comes back, by the way. He's the first antagonist introduced and never shows up again. Awesome. And we can speak about the antagonist's outfits later, because I love their futuristic 2004 outfits that I think are ridiculous. But anyways, I digress. I think the writing in both of these movies is absolutely horrendous. And I think it's shoddy and full of holes, especially in Time Cop. Not saying Judge Dredd is a well-written movie at all, but Time Cop is especially egregious.
Yeah, and you're totally right, Kyle, because they had interesting concepts. Like, you could really do something interesting with these concepts.
They're great concepts. They really are cool.
But they
concepts.
pandered to the star and to the action, and just really didn't go anywhere with it. And it's a little bit disappointing. Yeah, I wouldn't. It's gonna be hard to vote because it's like, neither of these have
I
very
already
good
know
writing.
where
They
my
both
vote's
they
going.
both really kind of failed when they were kind of handed like something great. They kind of just both screwed it up.
Poo-pooed.
I think they're both based on comic books, if I remember correctly.
That is
they're both
correct.
based on
Is Time Cop
Oh, that's
based
a
on
comic.
yeah, it's
book
based
too?
on a graphic novel or a comic book. I believe.
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
I
that.
knew Judge Dredd was.
Dark Horse. Is there? I mean, that's kind of an earmark of the mid '90s, though. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't think of another decade where the audiences were so insulted by what they put out.
Yes.
Like the Hollywood studios were so freaking lazy.
Yes.
And now, when you do a time travel movie, you have to dot your I's and cross your T's, or you're going to get strung up by it, especially with social media.
I wish I could have been a Hollywood writer in the 90s. The amount of drugs I would have taken and jobs I could have got. Oh,
And now it's just a bunch of rewrites. So
yeah.
Okay, so my problem was with writing for Dredd was Dredd would never take off his helmet. And are they
I
supposed
know.
to be clone brothers?
Oh, really?
Like, are they supposed to be like actual clones, or are they just brothers? Like, that really
Yeah,
bugged
because
me.
they don't really look that much alike.
They don't look
And-
that similar.
Even though they say that at some point.
And I have a note here. Oh, the monologuing God's argument when he's like, we could be gods. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's always for the bad guy to say. I thought the opening dialogue to explain the whole premise of the movie in Time Cop was pretty good. With the Senate committee, I agree it got over way too quick. Like those guys were like, okay,
they just accept time travel.
but it laid everything down, for the audience. I went 10 rounds with John Sullivan himself because I love that line.
That is a good line.
I
It
have
is.
Where Does the Sled Go? Which I imagine maybe in the comic they might explain that. I should probably pick it up.
You'd feel like it'd have to be retrieved.
Right.
Like the car in Back to the Future.
But
you
then-
need it to travel.
but then it's facing the other way when they come back through.
Yes.
I know. It's so bizarre.
I also had
It's really best not to overthink.
director Matt Matuzak has the best lines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
has the
he's
best
given great
lines.
lines.
And then I also had Mark Zuckerberg could say this line. You see, I'm an ambitious Harvard-educated visionary who deserves to be the most powerful man in the world. And you're a fucking idiot who never figured out that the only way to make anything of himself with all that fancy kicking was on Broadway. There, those are my notes for writing.
All right, that's the end of the writing round. So
Just
just-
one. I just wanted to throw in one last thing. I thought
Jesus
that
Christ.
a lot of the political parallels in Time Cop were kind of interesting, though, and maybe we can get into that later. But I thought some of the stuff that they talked about, like the politics going on in the world in Time Cop, were kind of
oh, yeah.
yeah,
strangely reminiscent. Is like, oh, this is, but that was the only thing about the writing that I thought was really interesting.
It's almost as if politicians have been scumbags for the last 30 years.
Ding, ding, ding. Give this man a
Really?
cookie.
Almost like it's timeless.
No.
yeah. There have been no abuses of power laid out in the back halls of the Congress ever. No way.
Oh, it's so funny.
Make that into a story.
Someone make a story about this.
You could do an entire TV series, and Kevin Spacey can be in it.
Oh, God.
Oh boy.
You can get him cheap right now. I don't think he's busy.
All right, so let's do some voting. Kyle.
Oh, God. Oh, no. I had not yet decided.
Mike.
You know what?
Time Cop.
No, I'll go.
Time Cop.
Oh, okay,
Neither
okay.
of these sound good coming out of my mouth. Voting for them, it doesn't feel good.
Welcome
had
to
that
the
feeling
election of
recently.
2020.
I am actually gonna vote for Judge Dredd because I think the first third of the movie is pretty solid.
Okay,
Oh, that feels dirty.
all right, go take a shower, Mike.
I'm going to go with Time Cop. I think the writing's much better.
All
And
right,
that's
Andrew?
not saying a whole lot.
I'm going with, because I think the writing is maybe a little bit better, but maybe it's just because I've seen it before, and that's Time Cop.
All right, and Gabe.
I'm going to split it right down the middle and go with Judge Dredd.
Okay, I'm counting. I'm counting here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Just
wait, wait.
drop your
I
crayon.
didn't want to
That sounded like
spoiler
proper.
alert.
He broke his
Yes.
crayon.
All right, so there's a little bit of trivia. So, according to Judge Dredd writer Stephen E. D'Souza, for the Den of Geek website back in 2013, he said the original cut was actually rated NC-17, and it had to be recut and resubmitted to the MPAA 5 times in order to get an R rating. And this was before Sylvester Stallone in the studio tried to cut the movie down to PG-13. In the scene where Rico kills the news reporter and his wife was actually a lot longer and showed the two of them getting hit by bullets in slow-mo, which I guess makes it NC-17 back in 95. And the scene where the ABC warrior kills Judge Griffin by ripping his arms off while Griffin screams was also deleted for these very same reasons. In Time Cop, you can see people see Time Cop as a study of free will versus predestination and parallel time universes. They don't really use that anymore because there's been like 40 movies better than Time Cop that have come out since then. And then Spada says in Time Cop that you can't go forward in time, you can only go back. But theoretically, scientists have said you actually can go forward, you just can't go back now. So the advances in time travel since 95 are incredible. It's amazing. It's amazing.
What I find the most interesting is that there's actually a Time Cop 2.
There is.
Wow.
Oh, you took my recommendation.
Oh
no.
There was also a short-lived TV show.
Go in depth.
There what?
There was also a short-lived TV show.
Time Cop?
Yes.
Wow. You learn something new every day.
But if you can travel in time, it goes on forever.
That's correct.
It may have been short-lived.
Are you thinking of Quantum Leap?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, damn it! You just took my other recommendation.
Time Cop, the TV series, 1997. He's a time traveler from 2007.
Oh God, they couldn't move it any further.
It's just
out than
10
that?
years.
It's Ted
10
King.
Same as the movie.
Stay where you are, buddy.
It's Ted King. Oh my gosh.
All right, acting.
Acting. Yes. This. We could spend the rest of the goddamn evening talking about this, but let's dive into Time Cop first. Jean-Claude Van Damme doing Jean-Claude Van Damme things, including the splits a few times, and showing his butt, and holding his foot up to some guy's face, and kicking someone 3 or 4 times without putting his foot down. These are all the hallmarks of any Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I am a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. In a sort of ironic sense that I know it's not good, but damn, do I enjoy movies like Bloodsport and Kickboxer. I do not like sci-fi Van Damme for this very reason. I don't believe or trust any of the things he's telling me about science. He just doesn't look clever enough to know all this stuff. And I don't want to be insulting, but I've seen the man just do nothing but show his ass and do the splits. And I don't believe he's also got a PhD in time travel. I think he is a pretty good martial artist, and I think that's about it, and that's where they should stop. I think the more they put on... You know what I actually find interesting, and I'll give him credit for this. I think Van Damme does not do emotional scenes terribly. I think they could be comical. A lot of action stars sometimes are comical when it comes to those sort of scenes. He can play distraught, I think. But that's not saying much, and I don't think it's great. Other than that, the rest of Time Cop is a veritable who's that of Hollywood, because almost no one is recognizable, with the exception of the guy who plays Matuzak, who I've seen in some other things. But almost no one else do it.
Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
Oh, not is he in Time Cop? Or
No.
Are you thinking of Judge?
Oh no,
Dredd?
he's.
Judge
I'm
Dredd.
sorry. Yeah, in Time Cop. I'm sorry. You're
Okay.
right. No, Max is in. I thought you were talking about.
I'll get there in just one sec. So
My apologies.
I don't think the acting is particularly strong in Time Cop. That's being very generous. I think Scott Silver is pretty good as a slimy, skeezy politician. I think he plays that okay, and that's an interesting antagonist to a 6'2" Brussels bound muscle man who just kicks ass and goes back in time.
It's Ron
kind of
Silver,
interesting.
by the way.
What's that?
It's Ron Silver, by the way.
Oh, Ron Silver. Oh, no. The Scott Silver's brother. He's the one who played the younger version.
Yep.
No, I have no idea. I just said his name wrong. Anyways.
Ron Scott.
Ron Scott. Whoever that guy was. All right. Let's touch on Judge Dredd for a minute. Maybe one of the most famous movies for its acting. Not in a good way. What's Rob Schneider doing in this movie? Why does his part get exponentially bigger as the movie goes on? I thought okay, I haven't seen Judge Dredd in 10 years, at least. Well, and I thought, oh, Rob Schneider's got a little cameo in this movie. Nope. Rob Schneider is a big part of this movie and remains a big part of this movie all the way through the end. And it kind of becomes really surprising at a point where you're like, holy shit, this guy is still here. And there's not really much reason for it. It's really bizarre. And he's not good. But you just feel like this is the guy Sylvester Stallone's like, I like you, kid. You can hang out to the end of the movie. And so they just kept writing his part bigger and bigger. But Sylvester Stallone gets a lot of shit for his acting in Judge Dredd, but Armand Assante should have been kicked out of Hollywood.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
He choose the scenery around a Sylvester Stallone who is playing Judge Dredd. That is how bad and over the top he is. He takes all the focus off of Sylvester Stallone. It's incredible. He just makes the largest choices you can make, and the director goes, bigger, do it bigger.
Yes.
It's insane. He was either geeked out of his mind on cocaine or having the time of his life. Whatever it was, though, this had to be a great shoot because never once were any of his instincts denied. It was like, just do it louder, bigger, say law. Do it like that. This was ridiculous.
I thought it was kind of funny how at least two characters kind of made fun of how Stallone said law.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it was almost kind of like it was this strange, like, self-aware moment where these characters knew he said it kind of like strangely, and so they were kind of like making fun of it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
It's like one thing where he can't hide his accent. But I kind of felt bad a little bit for Judge Dredd too, because they dragged some classy actors into this movie. Like they dragged Diane Lane into this movie, and they dragged Max von Sydow into this movie. And I thought, oh, they brought Jürgen Prochnow into this movie, but he's not always been in the best movies. Let's be honest.
It's true.
But man, the acting in Judge Dredd is something else. It's a class you should have to take when you go to acting school. Of things to like, let's avoid some of these basic instincts.
Well, I thought it was funny that Rob Schneider was a hacker, and all he did was rewire stuff and pull the wiring out of stuff. I was like,
you see him hack exactly once, I believe, when he gets into a recycled spaghetti machine.
And when they open him up, he's just rewiring it, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's not even really.
Yeah, he's not really hacking anything.
Well, so for me, Judge Dredd, just like Timecop, it boils down to the supporting actors. Like I haven't seen Dredd since I saw it in the theater, since it was released in the theater. Stallone was very campy as Dredd in the beginning. I felt like I was watching an episode of The Tick. Like when he drives up and he stands up, and he's got his fists on his waist, and he's just looking around.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I remembered saying to myself, why is Rob Schneider in this movie? And I actually kind of found him enjoyable this go around. Maybe it's because of everything else going on around Rob Schneider at the time. I was just like, okay, there's Rob Schneider. I feel better. I loved Armand Assante as Rico. I'm sorry. Like, he made the movie for me. You said it the best. He just chews that scenery and he doesn't let go. He's like a pit bull just going around Stallone, acting circles around Stallone and just doing the largest acting of his life. And I really enjoyed it. Diane Lane, unfortunately, relegated to eye candy. Max von Sydow, Jürgen Prochnow, which you've already brought up. I was like, wait, those two were in Dune together, and they were. Pa Angel was played by Scott Wilson, who also played Herschel in The Walking Dead. Junior Angel, played by Ewan Bremner, was the pilot in The Rundown. I just instantly I saw him. I'm like, wait, I know those guys, and I had to look it up. Timecop, Ron Silver is the perfect smarmy asshole, and he really makes that movie for me, right? Like, I went to watch Van Damme do everything that Kyle said: splits, kick a guy 3 times without putting his foot down, making a guy read between the lines, showing his butt, whatever it is. Bruce McGill is absolutely fantastic. He plays the director of the Time Agency. I have down here evil Dana Carvey equals Jacob Rupp. He's the guy that's like 50,000 volts, motherfucker, and he shoots it. I'm like, that looks like an evil Dana Carvey.
Evil Dana Carvey.
You can't have an action movie without James Liu. Like the second I saw him, I'm like, okay, that goes in. I wrote down splits.
Yep, I did too.
What
did I write? I wrote, gotta have the splits, lots of splits.
Right. Is the Edge from U2 a bad guy? Because in the scene at the superconductor business, there's one guy with a stocking cap on and like those really thin shades. Yeah. I'm like, that looks just like the Edge. Like he's got the beard and everything.
I thought he kind of looked like Joe Pesci.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
From the Matrix?
Oh, hey, here's a fun fact. Originally,
no, that's Joe Pantolian.
Yeah, that's Joe Pants.
Wrong Joe.
Wrong Joe.
Joe Pesci was originally, they wanted him to play the part that Rob Schneider played in Judge Dredd.
Really?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wanted who?
Wanted Joe Pesci to play that part.
No.
Yeah. Mia Sara relegated to eye candy. Love interest. Like, I think it's great that she actually shoots a bad guy at least. But that's all I got.
Yeah. The acting was overall pretty awful. And I think, Mike, you said it, that it really does maybe come down to the supporting cast. Because I mentioned Max von Sydow earlier, and I like watching him on screen. I like his voice.
Yeah, he has a great voice.
I like his presence. He doesn't even really have to do much, and he gets your kind of attention. And I was a little disappointed when they took his character out of the movie so quickly, because I liked seeing him on the screen. But I don't know if Stallone and Van Damme can actually act or not, but these were not prime examples of their abilities. Stallone was just awful. It's like and it's so funny. It's so funny that during that time period we had a bunch of action heroes who seemed as though they could barely speak English. Because we had those two and Schwarzenegger, and it's just like it was kind of the thing at that time. But I mean, he just doesn't come across as commanding or convincing as a judge when he can barely speak. And did he have contacts in? Did he?
It seemed like.
I assume his eyes are not actually blue like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Were they trying to make him? I think they were trying to create a parallel between him and his "quote unquote" brother or whatever, by having their eyes like that. I don't know. It was kind of weird. But yeah, I really think the supporting acting was better. And I did the same thing. I saw Rob Schneider was in it, and I immediately thought, oh, like I literally probably gasped out loud, like, oh God, Rob Schneider. And then he turned out to be one of my favorite parts of it. I actually, like you, Mike, I kind of enjoyed him more than other characters in the movie. And yeah, I don't know. I think you guys pretty much covered it, but the acting is going to be a tough one, just like the writing.
Now it's time to vote. So
can we reverse it?
Reverse what?
I want to see Judge Dredd where Rob Schneider is Judge Dredd and Sylvester Stallone is Rob Schneider's character.
That'd be great.
That would be pretty nuts. I would like that. All right, so let's vote.
To make a choice like that.
Gabe, what are you going with? That sounded like a judge vote for Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Judge Dredd.
Oh,
mostly because of Max von Sydow.
You don't feel forced into it though. Okay, Kyle.
No.
As many times as I could hear Jurgen Prochnow say "The Janus Project Files," I think I'm good. I did. Hugh Janus. My alter ego.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna vote for Time Cop.
Time Cop. All right, Andrew.
Do I have to? What if I
No.
vote for one and then go back in time and change my answer?
Then we'll
How would
never
we know though?
Oh,
Do you have a newspaper from the future to prove that you haven't done that?
yes.
Wait, I don't know if that's gonna work.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Time Cop because Mia Sara's in it.
That's good. All right. First with girlfriend. Good call.
God.
And Miguel.
I'm voting for the film that has
The best actor.
boobs and butt, and that's Time Cop.
Muy bueno. All right. So some acting. The contacts, you guys touched on it, but Sylvester Stallone and Armando Santi both had to wear contacts for this movie because they both have brown eyes. Just let that keep you up tonight. That was a budget item. They needed to change their eye color because their eye color matched, but it didn't match enough. So
What?
Yeah.
But
I'm serious.
Why wouldn't they have just left their
They
eyes brown?
both-
Was the
both had
blue
brown eyes?
Were the blue eyes like if they had made something out of it? You know, like
Right.
the blue eyes mean something.
Right.
It has something to do with the cloning process or something. Maybe it would have made sense, but why didn't they just let them have their natural color eyes? I don't.
I don't. And
Does
I gotta
anybody
tell you
know?
too, it doesn't mean jack shit because I have 3 kids. I have 4 kids, and 3 of them are brown eyes, and 1 kid's blues. And
Right.
he and his mom, and I are both brown eyes. So
Well, and they're not all gonna have perfect brown eyes.
yeah, it's not the way genetics works, but one of the many details it's easier not to think too much about.
Yeah.
In an interview, Rob Schneider claimed that the film crew gave Sylvester Stallone extra fire retardant on his back the back of his costume for the fiery exhaust shaft scene, while Mr. Schneider got no fire retardant at all.
Wow.
So, suck it up, Rob.
Yeah.
That-
Expendable.
But that
You know-
scene was very bizarre because the boy tripped and then he just laid there and went, "Help me! I've fallen,
Dredd.
and I can't get up," or something. And I'm like, "Well, just get up, dude!" It wasn't like his foot was caught or something. He just fell.
Yeah.
They laid there.
Total panic scene. And then I know there's not a lot of acting trivia, but in the beginning at the mall, when Melissa's walking through, they're playing "Anybody Know What Time It Is" by Chicago, which I'm sure whoever was in charge of getting the rights to that song to play it was very proud of their day at work when they got to go home and be like, "Honey, you won't believe what I got today. I got Does Anybody Know What Time It Is by Chicago to play in the middle of Time Cop." And they're like, "Oh my God, that's brilliant." So kudos to you.
And nobody
Kudos.
noticed.
Nobody noticed.
Nobody noticed. No. Annoying song though. All right, let's move on to directing.
Oh my God. And I bet he thought it was super clever too.
Super clever. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be great. No, people are going to get this. This is brilliant.
All right, so I feel kind of bad for Danny Cannon, and I'll explain why. Just from reading some of the backstory and history of the making of this film.
I'll just go ahead and delete my trivia
Oh,
now. Thank
sorry. I just feel like he was in a bad spot. I remember thinking back before I watched it again, it's one of those movies that had a lot of people changing things. Usually it's the studio. The studio is usually the one changing things. And unfortunately, it was his main actor that was changing things. And I think that's where everything just falls flat, right? He's trying to make one movie, Stallone is making another type of situation. And so my list, I felt kind of bad when I was watching it while I was writing the list. I felt kind of bad. I'm like, oh, poor guy. He probably had to fight for this scene, and then it gets all chopped to shit. But how many people did the car chase kill? I just, the motorcycle chase while they're all flying around, I want to know how many people, innocent bystanders were killed. I noticed the sped up crowd footage when they're flying over the crowd. Like, that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Why is DNA sampling always so violent? When
You can't
4
spit in a
needle-
cup.
Right. You can't spit in a cup or just a little drop
Yeah.
of blood. It's got to be 4 fucking needles that go deep into your arm.
What if we had to do that for like 23andMe?
Yeah.
They send you that in the
They
mail.
send you a giant gauntlet to stick your hand.
And you just
your
yell
hand
out,
here.
Central
And those needles
DNA
would have easily
sample.
came out the other side of like some people. I mean,
Oh,
his arm was
God.
big, but geez, like
Yeah.
you put a chick
need a
up there
liter
and
of
she'd
blood.
have like blood coming
Grandma,
up.
look what I got you for Christmas so we can find out your genetics.
It'll collapse your veins, but at least we'll know where you came from.
Jesus.
I loved the Hammerstein robot. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that looks
apparently-
really cool.
Apparently, he wanted it. They were going to just do it with a man in a suit, and he said no. He wanted an actual robot, so that actually took 5 people to operate it, and it's actual hydraulics in there moving and everything. So I thought that was pretty impressive.
That robot has a personality.
Yes. Stallone felt it was supposed to be a comedy action film. Like, just the entire time, everyone else is doing something else, and Stallone is like, this is supposed to be funny. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, what is going on? I just really felt bad for the director, just really felt bad for the guy. Timecop, issues with some continuity with the editing, things that stand out, the committee meeting and the Civil War stuff. I just have caught that. I have in big, bold letters, sexy sax scene, butt, butts, and candles. Like, you can't have a sex scene without sexy sax.
80s or 90s.
Great house explosion. I thought the house explosion is fantastic. I really enjoyed what they did with the 1929 scene. I thought that was a great way to bring in old Van Damme, 10 years older Van Damme. I just have always liked that
The
scene.
mullet.
Yes, with the mullet. Great Portal VFX. I really like that.
I thought they stood up actually pretty well.
Yeah, I think it works really well, except for the truck scene. That one truck scene doesn't stand out, or doesn't.
You could tell
stand
he
up.
was on a green screen.
Yes.
Heather
Great.
brought up a great point. She goes, why didn't he do the splits under that truck? I said he can't get low enough for that.
Do the splits and then lean forward
Yes.
just to look cool.
Yeah, right.
Great
Well,
editing.
he's done the splits between 2 trucks, though.
No,
That makes
yeah.
up for it.
Great editing of the Styx fight scene in 1929. Like, I noticed there was a lot of really good editing during some of the action scenes to make things feel quicker and more violent. Another one was when evil Dana Carvey gets shocked, like the different camera angles, and they moved around to him really quick to, it just gave it this momentum, and I really like that. Great set design for Timecop. Like, and Judge Dredd, I just felt like I've seen this set so many times. I've probably seen it in Demolition Man. I've probably seen it in Super Mario Brothers. It just felt like it had been used. And I had to go look it up, and I don't think it is, but if you look at the judge's chamber, the Jurgen Perchnow's chamber in Judge Dredd, then go look at a photo of Zorg's office from The Fifth Element. Like the round window and everything. I was like, I've seen this before. And so it's not the same, but it's also the same. I have down here what the F is up with the cars. Like, that had to be a choice from the director, right? Like, what are you doing? This looks like some kid built it out of Legos. Like, one has a spoiler on it. There is a spoiler on Van Damme's car. And I'm like, what is this?
That's really helping the aerodynamics of this giant blocky pipe covered. It looks like Technics. It's not even Legos.
It's like mini blinds on the side with the
Oh,
weird
gosh,
90s
exactly.
slats that they
You gotta
used to
cover up cover up the normal car wheels if you're going to do that shit.
It's like no windows, no.
They did like the weird 70s slats that they used to do like on Pintos and stuff on the side that were like the plastic slats that you could open and close. What the hell?
I'll give Dredd a little check mark because their vehicles were actually made by Land Rover. And except for the Lamborghini, but all those trucks and everything, those are essentially like Land Rover chassis, if I remember correctly. I wrote down widescreen TV in Timecop. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. All right. I wrote down VR has finally caught up from 2004.
I like how the
Quote,
holograms
unquote.
can destroy things if you don't fly through them.
Oh,
right
God,
at
and
the right about
Dredd.
time.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd.
Yeah, that was
Hiding behind flammable barrels during a gunfight. Not that smart.
good idea. Good idea.
I'm sitting there like, what?
That scene killed me. I was like, he's hiding behind a bomb.
Yes.
You're hiding behind bombs.
The way he's holding the photo when he's watching the two of them at the mall is just so awkward.
God.
Yeah, that was so. It seems so like staged.
And I'm like, that is a director's choice. I've got to put that in there. And then another director's choice, well, possibly a director's choice. Why would you climb to the top of a house during a thunderstorm?
right, and hang on to the
Why
antenna.
did she go all the way to the top?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I didn't
really
understand
weird.
that.
I
That's
just
where the scene happens.
right. Those are my problems. I still enjoy Timecop way more than Dredd. I dreaded watching Dredd, in fact, but there were parts of Dredd that made me I don't know. It brought back a little nostalgia, maybe, but I can't.
In Dredd?
Yeah, like just maybe from watching it, at that time. We were in high school. It was my junior year, so we were going to see movies like 2-3 times a week, my friends and I. But oh my God, like the director I felt with Dredd had such an uphill battle with his main actor, and I think it shows tremendously in the final product. Where Timecop, I feel like the director knew exactly what he wanted. He was like, okay, we got Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's going to do splits. He's going to show his butt, and there we go. That's all we need.
And that director worked with
Peter
Van
Hyams.
Damme several other times too.
Yes.
Mhm.
So sorry,
By the way-
you guys go. I was rambling.
What was the line at the beginning when they're shooting down on the street and he's like, the range of their bullets is only 200
It's
meters,
200 meters.
and
The
they're
lethal
300
range.
meters, and they're fine.
So
I was
we're
like,
fine.
what?
Even though you see the bullets hit the ground.
I was
and
gonna
cause
say they were.
fire.
And they also
bouncing off
killed
the
a guy.
cars.
They
Yeah,
also
and
killed a
Yeah,
guy.
they killed a guy.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
they did.
That is such a goofy scene. What a goofy way to introduce Judge Dredd. Just have him get off his bike and murder people.
And the flames back and forth between the two buildings or whatever of the rockets shooting, and they
yeah.
like showed the same thing like multiple times.
Block war. I did like the scene though where they're flying down and Rob Schneider. Here's the thing. Rob Schneider's been in jail for 6 months. When he comes back, he seems to think that he's going to get a live in some penthouse up there and not in the squalor below. He's like forgotten what the underworld of Mega City looks like. What happened to him in prison? Did he get brain damage? He gets assigned to some place called Heavenly Havens, and he's like, oh, I bet that's one of these giant penthouses and not some place where they shove ex-convicts like me that I know makes up 90% of the population of this city because I live in this world. But it's like he was an alien, and he forgot that that's what happened.
Well, and I love the shot of the city of just how many futuristic things can we? They were trying to copy Blade Runner, and they didn't quite do it because they just put so much stuff in the visual. Like that map painting behind the Statue of Liberty was, wow.
All right, so Rob Schneider's lawyers have asked us to wrap this round up. So, all right, so
Stop playing Among Us, Tom.
Bigelow, male gigolo. You don't stop Rob Schneider.
let's go ahead and let's do some voting.
Tom,
You pay me
Yes.
$10.
stop playing Among Us.
Oh, good. You're following on Facebook, huh? I can't play Among Us and listen to you guys talk about Judge Dredd at the same time anyway, because the discussion is riveting. All right, Kyle, where are you going?
Oh, I don't want to go first. Oh, for directing. Let me see.
Yeah, directing.
Oh, brother. I will go back in time and make myself vote for Timecop.
All right. Mike.
Timecop.
Andrew.
Yeah, because I think they actually had somewhat of a direction, and that would be Timecop.
Okay. And Gabriel.
Yeah, Judge Dredd starts out pretty well, but falls apart pretty quickly. I'm going to go with Timecop too. Oh, as well.
Oh,
Timecop as well.
Interesting.
Go, Mike.
Interesting is what I would say if this was interesting. All right. Some directing trivia. Mike kind of touched on this, but Danny Cannon was so disheartened over his constant creative differences with Sylvester Stallone that he swore that he would never work with another self-absorbed actor again. And he also claimed that the final version is completely different from the script due to changes that Stallone demanded. So I think Danny Cannon was probably shooting for an NC-17 Judge Dredd. But so here's some here's some
beauty queen is Sylvester Stallone.
Directorial regrets. Danny Cannon turned down the chance to direct Die Hard 3 in order to make this.
Yes. I saw that too.
That's not great. That's not a good choice.
Would it really have been any better to work with
Bruce Willis
though?
Yeah, he's.
Ooh,
yeah,
and
it's supposed to
Sam
be
Jackson
difficult.
and Jeremy Irons. I don't know.
Well,
I know some people don't like.
I
Die
feel
Hard
like Sam
3.
Jackson is probably easier to work
I love
with.
Die Hard 3.
I love Die Hard 3.
But what is really Sylvester Stallone really that big of a drama king?
I believe back then he was.
He was.
Really? He may not be anymore. And he certainly probably didn't start his career that way when he was making Rocky by himself, you know.
I mean, he just doesn't appear to me as someone that is. He just appears like, I'll do whatever you tell me.
He might have changed in the last 30 years. But, I mean, this probably was near the height of his popularity.
I don't
Post,
know.
Absolutely.
Oh, come on, right? Post coming off all the Rockies?
Yeah.
I've never found the appeal of Sylvester Stallone. I can't honestly think of a single movie. I can't think of a single movie I own that he's in. I don't think I have a single. I'm not kidding. I just don't. I don't
No
know.
Rambo.
So
Nope.
Demolition Man was made before Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
I love Demolition.
Demolition Man is one of my favorite
And that's
Stallone movies.
it's a way better movie than this.
So we know which way the slope was headed then. So,
Huh.
that's a geometry thing. If you have 2 points, you know which way the slope is going. This is one of my favorite when the Coen brothers were offered a chance to make this movie and they turned it down so that they could make Fargo.
Oh,
And the
wow.
head-
Judge Dredd?
And
what a
yeah.
very
Coen
different
brothers directing
film.
Judge Dredd.
Tom.
Yeah.
Coen brothers?
Yeah.
And
That
the
would've been wild.
head judge.
I would have actually liked to seen that.
Max von Sydow's character is Judge Fargo.
Yes, he is. He's named Judge Fargo.
That's funny.
I have some trivia for Timecop, but it's not interesting. So
Yeah,
Right.
we want to hear it.
I'd rather have the 10 seconds, honestly. But Agent Walker always runs or is in fast motion, like falling, when he's entering exit time, and Senator McComb walks when he is entering and exiting time. This signifies that one has plenty of time and the other doesn't. And now you need a time machine to get that 10 seconds back.
Wait, what?
How do alcoholics, like really, really desperate alcoholics, stay in such good shape? Because when we meet Max Walker in the future, he is broken up about his wife who's died.
Yes.
And is drinking straight out of a bottle.
Yes.
But he is in phenomenal shape. I just don't think the two go hand in hand very often.
They don't.
No.
I've not met a lot of broke down alcoholics that are also in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. Thank you for saying there, Kyle.
Yeah, it was worth it. That's another 10 seconds everybody wishes they had back.
That's good. We'll just loop back and get rid of that one too. All right.
Yeah.
Final round.
Overall, I think we've covered a lot of these things. Well, in Judge Dredd, I did feel like the aesthetic of Judge Dredd was very reminiscent, but I wrote down that it was reminiscent of Blade Runner, Strange Days, Dune with some of the costumes, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, and others. So it felt really like kind of a mashup of all these cool things that they had seen, and they're like, let's put that in there. Now, one of the interesting things to me was the visual effects. And I thought that the visual effects were actually fairly decent in Judge Dredd. They were better than I expected them to be. And I found out that they were done by a company that eventually did The Matrix and got swallowed up by a larger company. And that visual effects company went on to do a number of well-known visual effect heavy type movies. And it kind of showed. I felt like they had a bigger budget for that than I expected when I saw Judge Dredd. Now, I've seen both of these before in my youth, but I hadn't seen them for a long time. And I expected them to both be just, mostly awful. And they didn't disappoint. But I was surprised at times by some of those things. I don't know if there were any other like overall things that we haven't kind of touched on yet. I don't know. What did you guys think? We did talk about the politics. I thought the some of the things they talked about politically in Timecop were just a little bit too familiar. And again, maybe it's just because politics really haven't changed, or I don't know. Maybe they actually could see into the future. I don't know. What do you guys have anything else to add to the overall portion of it?
If you look at the whole, Saddam Hussein explanation, it's because that was still pretty much in the memory of everyone, the first Gulf
90s.
War, right? And I found it funny with the news broadcast while our alcoholic was asleep, that the white supremacist party could not get matching funds for.
They did.
They did get matching funds. That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on here? So, politically, things haven't really changed that much since the 90s.
No, it was weird. It was a little bit weird. And there were a few things that they said that I felt like didn't really match kind of where the party lines are drawn today, as far as certain issues. But it was remarkably similar to what we see on a daily basis in real life. So I was like, that's kind of interesting that they, because somebody had to write that stuff in. So I thought it was interesting that stuff was included in the movie. And it was just kind of background. But it was more interesting than what was going on in the foreground to me. It's like, and should we talk about time travel movies a little bit? We've done it before, I'm sure. Yeah. But, it's like, again, I think they really missed an opportunity. I was surprised at how little Timecop actually had to do with time travel at all. And I thought they missed an opportunity. I really like the idea of, and I'm sure it's been done before, but I really like the idea of a time travel movie where you see one event and then you go back to that event and the event happens exactly the same way as it did before, only it's revealed that time travel was somehow involved with that. I think it would have been kind of cool if, the house, we see the house blow up and we presume she's dead. We don't see that. We don't see her after that. And I think it would have been cool if they went back and events unfolded exactly the same way as they had previously. But the future Von Damme, the future Walker or whatever his name is, came and got her out before the house blew up. And she's not actually dead or something. And I feel like they really missed some opportunities there. But it turned into like a completely different situation when he went back. And then I think maybe Kyle mentioned it too. It's like at the end of the movie, she acts like she doesn't remember all of those things happening, seeing the future version of her husband and being saved from the house. Well, that's the only reason that she's there.
Right.
Is because those things happened, and why would she not?
Yeah, it was that part of it.
Remember
was
any
really,
of that?
really weird.
Wait, what do you mean that she didn't remember?
She was acting like, I don't know. She was acting like I felt like the way they acted at the end, like she didn't recall that he traveled in time and
well, here's the thing though,
saved
is
it.
she would have already known that, right? Like when she wakes up in the yard with young Van Damme, and she goes to the hospital and everything.
And then
they
which one is there?
have that 10 years. That's the young one. They have that 10 years to talk about it, right?
But then,
so
then
by the
he
time,
doesn't know what's happened during.
Correct.
His
He
character
doesn't.
also has a kind of a lapse because he's like, he comes back and he's like, oh, you're still alive, and these things are still here, and so his character
changed, and that's
because
a
it
problem
all
with time
changed.
movies.
That's because
that's
it all
a problem
changed,
with
so
time
he didn't
movies.
know.
And some movies address it where, like, as soon as, like, for instance, as soon as he comes back, immediately he has all these memories that he didn't have. Almost instantaneously, he has all these memories he didn't have before. And some movies have addressed it in that sense. But you're right. He came back and it was like, oh, there's a kid. I've never seen he acted like he had never seen a kid before. And I realized that the character, because we're following the character, he wouldn't have seen that kid before, but in real life he would, or in
now
the aspect of the world, he would have seen that kid before. Time. That's why I said time is really weird. I did enjoy the beginning and that's why I asked the question of, was the beginning did that actually happen? Because it also makes me wonder that when they were in the house and he said, make sure he doesn't come downstairs, that whole scene with the house played out differently. So it seems
very
like
differently. The
mall scene was it was a flick to the fact that he was there, but I don't think he really was.
And that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and
that scene. Well, that scene went differently too. Though.
I'm sorry. I'm very lost because for some reason I understand this action movie.
So he comes back and he changes things.
Okay,
he's not supposed to.
But at the beginning,
but he does at the end.
But at the beginning, when he goes through the whole mall thing, fine. Let's say he was there, and that's how that whole mall scene. She was looking through the store window and had just finished seeing her future husband.
Right.
Great. But then they go back to the house, and in the ending, he actually is there in the house and talking to her downstairs while he's getting ready, and he tells her, "Don't let him come downstairs," and he jumps the guys. So in the original version at the very beginning, that means he left after the mall and didn't actually go back to the house with her.
Right. Well,
and that's where I'm saying that. So
that's where time travel gets complicated, right?
Is there actually did he go back and then come back again?
Right. Well, and then wouldn't there be two of him at the end? Because he saves her and himself, and then he comes back. So wouldn't there be two of him at roughly the same age at the very end?
Can we also talk about the fact that the guy, this was the other thing that bothered me about the whole shuttles, is at the very beginning, the guy jumps out of a window and they show up and he's all handcuffed and everything. And then they immediately put him right back halfway falling in the exact same spot he came from to continue falling. But yet the other times when he jumps, they land like in a pond. Like they can be so specific about that one moment.
Yes.
But all the other ones are completely random. And it's like, well, wherever you land, good luck.
You land in
bastard,
a pond,
tomorrow
or you
might have
land
been
in
a
the
better
road
day.
in front of a truck or whatever.
No shit. I think there's three things we got to talk about before we run out of time.
Yes,
One,
do it.
What happens when two people occupy the same space at the same time? You turn into a meat tornado.
Yes.
You
had
that
me
was
at meat
fucking
tornado.
That is a
bizarre.
scientific fact.
Computer-generated thing.
Yeah, that was terrible. Two, the outfits in Judge Dredd were designed by Versace.
Were they?
Yeah, it said in the opening credits.
Really?
It's part of the
The
opening.
cod
God,
piece.
I missed
I
that.
couldn't get over the cod
Yeah.
piece, and they had to have a
it was
close up
like
of it too.
his
Oh,
tight
Jesus.
spandex and then
Oh,
that
yeah.
cod piece.
And 3, the music in Judge Dredd done by Alan Silvestri is way better than the movie.
Yes.
The music in Time Cop done by some other guy nobody knows is just as bad as the movie.
Oh
I don't
no,
know. I think
wa-
that guy from Time Cop is pretty accomplished.
yeah.
I don't
think
know who
he's
it
done
was,
a lot of stuff you.
but
may
I was
know.
like, oh my God, all you did was turn on Kenny G and then they're having sex. By the way,
Sexy sex.
nothing more low rent than having your candle on a plate. That is straight up South Side. That's how we used to do it where I grew up. That is some low rent.
Well, they
shit,
don't-
having your
don't-
candle on a plate.
They don't pay time cops a lot. It's a
I-
thing.
Well, he wasn't a
Apparently
time
not.
cop yet. He
But
wasn't a
man-
time cop yet.
Oh, he
What are you
wasn't
doing?
yet.
Are you washing that plate, or what are you doing with that plate? Is that a designated candle plate?
I happen to
I don't
like
understand.
the music in Time Cop. I like that weird ass, like, I don't know. It's not a metal sound, but I put down
It
that I
doesn't-
really like the sound effects.
It's
I
not
thought the
quite
sound effects were great.
theremin, but
Yeah.
I don't think it sounds as good as the music in Judge Dredd, though, because the music in Judge Dredd, I think, is really well done. And it's so
Yeah.
much better than the fucking movie is.
Now the bigger question is: anybody seen the remake Dread?
Yes.
The 2012, 11, 10,
2013 with Carl Urban. as
with
Judge
Carl
Dredd.
Urban. Yes.
So
Any good? I've
good.
never seen
Oh my
I've
God.
heard really
dude.
good things about it. Yeah.
So much
It's
better.
really good.
it. Really?
It's so much
You know,
better.
Now
And
I
I
need to
feel
watch.
like, again, the concepts are there to make a really good movie. I think if you focus on the right things instead of just the superstar and the action scenes, I think there's really some good material there.
Time Cop is a great idea. I love the idea, and I think you could make a really cool movie if you focused on the actual idea of time cops.
Right. And what would you be enforcing? Think about what you may need to enforce in the realm of time travel.
And how do you deal with the fact that you may need to go back to the same time period? Like, how did they deal with like that? That to me, all that has a really cool premise. It's just like they had this idea and then they just shit all over it because, well, we've got Jean-Claude Van Damme.
They stopped trying after the premise, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because they got a cool premise and they didn't know how to execute it.
Well, and it was a different time too. I mean, they used to be able to just sell movies on the marquee name at the top.
Correct.
You know,
The
Yeah.
actor.
if you had
Absolutely.
a halfway decent premise and a person, you didn't have to worry about anything else. But audiences are way more discerning now, and
That's because there's so
You
much
can-
more out there, right? We have so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
more to consume.
Especially for a time travel movie.
and your Friday night open, you used to be able to go a couple of weeks before bad word of mouth get around, but I mean, you can't make it past Thursday night previews now before everybody knows Friday morning that a movie sucks and you shouldn't go see it. So
Right.
And even then,
Thank you,
people still
social
go
media.
see it.
yeah. The comic book movies are tough. You've got the loyal fans you have to appeal to, and then you've got the, how do you bring everyone else into the circle?
I would be curious to know what some actual comic book fans of Time Cop specifically thought of the movie,
so-
and then also of Judge Dredd. Because again, I had no idea Time Cop was a comic book movie.
I can take care of both of those for you, Andrew.
Oh, well,
Judge Dredd.
like,
Judge Dredd was looked down upon even from the creator and the writer. He was like, "That's not Judge Dredd," like, period. Because the thing that I said in the beginning with the writing, Dredd would never take his helmet off. In the books, he took it off once, and there was a censor bar over his face because it's so disfigured. Like, they made it a point.
It's real
never to
gritty,
show-
too.
Right.
The Judge Dredd comic books are very gritty and dirty.
Yes, and the Time Cop comics, I believe, was only a miniseries, and I think it was only 3 issues.
okay.
So, although it is based on a comic, it's not based on a comic run, right? Like, it wasn't an ongoing series. It was just based on a
graphic
miniseries
novel.
esque, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
there you go.
interesting.
I didn't hear anybody mention Adrian Biddle. I always talk about cinematographers, and I think he was one of those late '80s, early '90s guys that did a lot of really popular movies. I mean, you know, Princess Bride and Aliens and, you know, The Mummy and V for Vendetta. And he's, you know, he was extremely talented. Unfortunately, he died very young at 53. So, but he was the cinematographer on Judge Dredd. And so, I do think that Judge Dredd cinematography is better than Timecop. There's not a lot it seems to be winning tonight, but that's certainly one of them.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I felt like along with the visual effects, the production quality on Judge Dredd was really actually very high. It was a nice looking movie. It was well shot. Actually, and Timecop isn't that bad. I felt like Timecop was a little bit. A lot of the shots were very dark, though. There was a lot of rain. It was raining a lot.
Oh my God, the rain!
and a lot of the shots were very dark, so you couldn't really get a clear idea. You couldn't really clearly see what was happening.
See,
and you're also talking about a budget. Dredd had $90 million for a budget. Timecop had $27 million.
Yeah.
It did feel like Timecop was hiding some seams with the darkness and the rain. And I know they said that they filmed in London, so like the streets were always wet. Or was that Judge Dredd?
That was Judge Dredd.
Where they kept the streets wet because it wouldn't stop raining. But all right, so let's put it to a vote. Mike.
Okay, so an ex-girlfriend and I used to use that pickup line. There's never enough time. Whenever I would meet up with her, I bought Wolverine boots thinking they would give me JCVD powers. I currently still own a mini disc player, and I've got to vote for Timecop.
All right, Andrew.
So I have to say that I am voting for the film that not only did I have on VHS, but I found an old Laserdisc player with this movie on it, and bought it at a pawn. Well, it was like an old secondhand store. So, Timecop.
Kyle.
Sometimes we talk about rewatchability as being a big decider for overall. I gotta say, I don't think I'll ever watch Timecop again, but I probably will watch Judge Dredd again just to enjoy and bask in the glory of Armand Assante and Sylvester Stallone acting next to each other. So I'm gonna go out of left field and vote for Judge Dredd.
Left field it is. And Gabe.
I'm gonna go Judge Dredd as well.
All right. I'll do some monkey math if we want to go ahead. We're going to go into recommendations. And starting at the top, we will go with Gabe.
Yeah, I wasn't at the top, but I'll go.
You're a power bottom, Gabe.
I meant top isn't like empirically. You are like the top of the show. So.
Right. Yeah,
they said
I
you're the
forgot.
number one reason they listen. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of categories we're broken into, and then beautiful, attractive, and hung, you're like the top.
Right. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate that.
I keep a spreadsheet.
Nice. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to go with a kind of a similar time period and similar genre type film, kind of, I guess. I'm going to recommend The Last Action Hero. I'm going to be completely honest here. I haven't seen it in many, many years. And I'm recommending it mostly based on the soundtrack, because the soundtrack kicks ass.
The soundtrack, I still listen to it. It's great.
I know. It's awesome. Some of my favorite kinds of music are on it. The soundtrack is fantastic. I do recall it being a very entertaining film, and it comes right out of this kind of same kind of time period with these over-the-top action movies that focus on an action star, and in this case, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So why don't you join me and go back in time and watch The Last Action Hero?
Good choice. That Alice in Chains song on that soundtrack is fantastic.
Is it Wood?
No, they do.
No, that's what you think about all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No, Alice in Chains says, "What the hell have I?"
Oh, yeah.
It's a good song. So
yes.
All right. Mike, you're up next.
All right. So originally Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to play Judge Dredd, Gabe. And I also just this week received a mint on card Last Action Hero action figure. It's still
Really?
complete. Yeah. I was like, for $2, I'll buy that. So I've got Jack Slater setting up downstairs. Anyway, my pick is a movie from 2015. It is directed and written by David Sandberg. It also stars David Sandberg, Jorma Taccone, and Stephen Chu. It is in 1985, Kung Fury. The toughest martial artist cop in Miami goes back in time to kill the worst criminal of all time, Kung Fury, a.k.a. Adolf Hitler. You have time travel, Lamborghinis, dinosaurs, chicks, Viking chicks in bikinis, miniguns, everything. It's awesome. It is so much fun, and it's only 30 minutes. It's great. So check out,
Really?
Yeah, check out Kung Fury. It's from 2015.
I think I'll be watching that one.
All right. Andrew.
I am going to. It's possibly someone has recommended it, and if they have, I apologize. But it's one of the coolest little kitschy, little almost low budget feeling time travel movies that you're not really sure that it's actually about time travel, but it is about time travel at the same time, and it all is with a newspaper article on Aubrey Plaza and Mark Duplass, and that's Safety Not Guaranteed. And it is a fantastic little flick. It's super fun, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And you'll laugh, you'll giggle, you'll be like, wow, and it really delivers. I think it's one of the coolest little almost indie low budget films that I can think of that's about time travel, and man, I just enjoy it every time. So Safety Not Guaranteed.
Good choice.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and I never knew what it was about. But it sounds interesting.
It's a Aubrey Plaza basically finds a want ad that is asking for someone to go back in time with them, and then at the end it says safety is not guaranteed. And she takes them up on the offer, and it's their journey, and it's awesome. It's just a really good film. And it's only an hour and a half, so actually an hour and like 20 minutes, so you're good.
Excellent. All right, Kyle.
All right, so if we're talking about dark mid-90s movies, I'm going to go with one I watched a lot, and that is The Crow. Talking about a movie with a great soundtrack, too.
Oh, yeah.
The Crow had an
Nine Inch
excellent
Nails.
soundtrack.
Violent Femmes.
A lot of really good bands. That's a great soundtrack. Still one of those ones that holds up these days. But man, was I crazy for The Crow. I was never a goth. That was never my scene. But crazy over the top supernatural action movies, for some reason, really was in my wheelhouse back then. I must have watched this movie 50 times. And it's surrounded by the whole story of Brandon Lee dying on set and all this crazy stuff that happened. But it led me to check out the graphic novel, which I also recommend. Although don't read it in your study hall like I did, because if a teacher sees what's inside of it, she will take it. And I've still never got that back. And I'm pretty pissed off about it. But whatever.
Skank's dead.
It's a really real world. There ain't no coming
All
back.
right. For my recommendation, I'm going to go time travel route, and I'm going to have everybody just to give this movie a chance. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, and listen. There have been some problems with this franchise. Last week, I watched Terminator: Dark Fate, and I found it to be actually a pretty fun ride. And I know that people were expecting something else, and the fact that this kind of rewrote some of the other chapters, but time travel movies do that. But the action scenes were really good, and I thought that it was a nice build on to Terminator 2, which I think everybody agrees is the best film in the franchise. In fact, I don't know any other franchises where people are so unanimous about which chapter's the best. And Dark Fate, it's a fun ride, and I think some people were looking for something really like amazing, not realizing really how hokey the first 5 Terminator movies are if you really think about the concept and everything else. So if you want a fun ride, Terminator Dark Fate, Terminator 6, whatever you want to call it, I recommend it. Especially, it's kind of like a mid-90s sci-fi throwback anyway. So
It is. It's very good.
yeah, I
enjoyed it.
I'm sorry it didn't do well.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would too.
Yeah, I mean, hearing that from a lot of people too. So, and Linda Hamilton is just she's fucking great in it. So, okay, so let's poke the monkey and find out who won. Monkey, wake up!
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a thorough thrashing. So,
And if you base your theories on different theories of time travel in an alternate reality, Judge Dredd just won. So everybody wins tonight.
nope.
God, there's
I'm not sure who you voted for. I don't know sure you voted for a couple weeks ago, but Timecop won, and we're not going to dispute this. Timecop won.
why is
And we're just
future
gonna
me
move on with
at
our
the doors
lives.
of
What?
my office?
Judge Dredd is just going to have to concede.
Hold
yeah,
on.
Judge Dredd is just going to have to move out of the film house.
Hold on.
and-
Future me is wanting to talk. Hold on. Yeah, I got to change my votes.
Okay.
Something bad is going to happen
Yes.
if we don't change.
Yeah. Mia Sarah will not show her boobs anymore if we vote
Aw.
for Time Cop.
That's a bummer.
Uh,
Jean-Claude Van Damme won't show those buns.
Yeah, I'm sure John Hughes was like, God damn it, she didn't do that for me. All right. Okay. Let's tell everybody where you can find yous at. Andrew.
I'm really easy. You can just go out to
Yes, he
Arizona.
is. Yes, he
I
is.
am.
No, that's not what we asked.
Oh,
That's what the bathroom wall said.
Oh, wait. It's,
Why was it over a hole? I don't understand what the hole is for.
It's over the hole. It should be under because no. You can just go out to Arizona Inc. Studios. That's Arizona INK Studios.com, and you can find all of our cool films that we've done, shorts and such. You can find our links to all of our social media, which the only one, well, yeah, actually, because we've taken all the other crappy ones off, and links to this wonderful podcast. So go there and have a good time and enjoy and watch and have fun. So ArizonaInkStudios.com.
All right. Thank you very much. Gabe.
Yeah, you can look up our 48-hour films on onegenomeshort.com.
All right. Kyle.
Yeah, I have a Facebook I never post on. I have an Instagram I've never posted on in my life. I have a Twitter account that I've never activated. So good luck.
Yes.
I think they probably have better luck having a conversation with Ron Silver. So,
Oh.
I know how
Or
you
his
feel,
brother
Kyle.
Scott.
Oh.
all right, Mike.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't do a lot of the Instagram and Twitter. I do try and post one stupid meme a day on Facebook. You can find our films on YouTube. Just search Southsider Studios. And you can also search Southsider Studios in iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use for any of our other podcasts.
All right. I'm going to try and wing this a little bit because Mike took some of my phrasing. We would appreciate it if you could
Sorry.
leave a review on iTunes or whichever podcast subscriptions. I can't do it. All right. I'll just read what you wrote me. We would appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. And if you'd like to tell your friends, if you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search for Cinesmack. For December, ho, 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 we're bringing back a couple of Jim Henson holiday classics as Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas takes on his big brother, The Muppet Christmas Carol. For Mike, Gabe, Andrew, Kyle, shit, I lost track of who I said. For Kyle, Gabe, Andrew, Mike, and myself, thanks for listening, and go fuck yourself.
No, that's not our slogan.
Oh, go catch a flick. We'll make it a good.
There.
Hey.
Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? If so, I can't imagine why. We've all got time enough to cry.
Is that our new slogan, guys?
Go fuck yourself.
Thanks for listening, and go fuck yourself.
I don't think it's going to catch on.
I don't
We
know. It's pretty catchy.
We might detour some listeners.
Hey,
maybe.
hey, we got
very
5 new
2020.
listeners, and we lost them.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.